The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Take a look behind me. These dedicated Trump supporters out here lined up outside of the Amway Center. Again, a downpour came through just a few minutes ago. They are now soaked, but not going anywhere. Folks lining up since 5 a.m. Monday to witness President Trump kick off his 2020 re-election campaign in Orlando Tuesday evening. Trump tweeting 100,000 people have registered for tickets to the rally at the Amway Center, but the venue only holds 20,000. Ticketed supporters will be allowed in on a first-come, first-served basis.
We know that there's going to be a lot of people here, so we decided to get here early, and we're just really excited to hopefully get really close as possible we can get to Trump.
Supporters securing their spots in line with lawn chairs and tents. But Myra Galvez isn't planning to sleep outside.
We're going to glamp because we're at a hotel.
Her and her four sisters drove up from Miami, but got a hotel and are taking turns sitting in line.
Oh, God, it's rally night in America, everybody. Hey. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. But, of course, tonight, all the oxygen will be sucked out of the room by another episode of Donald Trump's self-help crowd therapy. I mean, this is crazy. He waited until there were 250 people in line to tweet out that there were thousands of people in line. Oh, my God. So some of the people got there 42 hours before the rally. 42 hours before the rally. These rallies are made up of obsessed lunatics. I mean, what we have is about 30% of the country still supporting him, but those 30%, they support him 1,000%. So he thinks that, maybe they should vote multiple times, or maybe you should hold the vote at a Trump rally. I mean, it's just too bad that he's so stupid that he can't figure out a way for these people to vote multiple times. But I'm sure he's working on it. This is it looks like a Grateful Dead concert, except these people are not high on hallucinogens. They are high on Fox News, their own distorted view of reality. It's just so amazing. But, the President of the United States, there's nothing he loves more than his rallies. It's like therapy for him. I swear to God, it really is. It's like, he needs a crowd that responds, to everything that he says, true or not. And he responds, to uncontrollable praise and flattery and, being the center of attention. I mean, this president of ours, he's got the complexity of a poodle, but not your adorable poodle. I don't mean to insult your adorable poodle. He's like a giant orange, stupid poodle is what it is. And he just needs to mark his territory everywhere. And tonight, the reason why everybody's paying attention, this is his, I don't know how you tell the difference. How are we going to know? But this is a different rally. This is his re-election launch. Or as I like to call it, the Avoid Prosecution Tour. Thank you. And as he's arriving in Orlando, what's trending today is anybody but Trump. Why is that? Because the Orlando Sentinel, which is the largest newspaper in Orlando, decided today to put out their endorsement for 2020, and it goes something like this. Donald Trump is in Orlando to announce the kickoff of his re-election campaign. We're here to announce our endorsement for president in 2020. Or at least who we're not endorsing, Donald Trump. Welcome to Orlando, Mr. President. And then they go on. This is the editorial board at the Sun Sentinel's Hour paper in Fort Lauderdale, Orlando Sentinel. The editorial board said, some readers will wonder how we could possibly eliminate a candidate so far before an election, and even before knowing the identity of his opponent. Because there is no point pretending we would ever recommend that readers vote for Trump. Wow. After 2.5 years, we've seen enough. Enough of the chaos, the division, schoolyard insults, self-aggrandizement, the corruption, and especially the lies. So many lies. From white lies to whoppers told out of ignorance, laziness, recklessness, expediency, or opportunity. Trump's capacity for lying isn't the surprise here, though the frequency is. It's the tolerance so many Americans have for it. There was a time in America when even a single lie, a phony college degree, a bogus work history would doom a politician's career. Hey, let me just insert my own. You remember when having a nanny who was here without a green card was cause for you to withdraw your nomination? Remember that? Yeah. And then they go, not so for Trump, who claimed in 2017 that he lost the popular vote because millions of people voted illegally. They didn't. In 2018, he said North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat. It is. And in 2019, he said windmills cause cancer. They don't. Just last week, he claimed the media fabricated unfavorable results from his campaign's internal polling. It didn't. According to a Washington Post database, the president has tallied more than 10,000 lies since he took office. Trump's successful assault on truth is the great casualty of this presidency, followed closely by his war on decency. Trump insults political opponents and national heroes alike with middle school taunts. He demonstrates no capacity for empathy or remorse. He misuses his office to punish opponents, as when he recently called for a boycott of AT&T to get even with his least favorite media outlet, CNN. He tears down institutions, once airily suggesting the U.S. should try having a leader for life, as China now allows. He seems incapable of learning a lesson, telling an ABC interviewer last week, just 2 months after Robert Mueller's report on election interference was released, that he would accept dirt on an opponent from Russia or China. Trump has diminished our standing in the world. He reneges on deals, attacks allies, and embraces our enemies. This nation must never forget that humiliating public moment in Helsinki 2018, when the President of the United States chose to accept Vladimir Putin's denials of Russian interference in the 2016 election over the unanimous assessment of the American intelligence community. Such a betrayal by a U.S. president would have been the unforgivable political sin if we were in normal times. And if that's not enough, Trump declares his love for North Korea's Kim Jong-un, a genuine villain who starves and enslaves his own people, executes his enemies with anti-aircraft guns and flamethrowers. Oh, and let's add this, because they forgot that they attacked his half-brother in an airport with, I guess it was VX gas or sarin. But he wrote the president a beautiful letter. Flattery will get you everywhere with this president, and that is dangerous. Domestically, the president's signature issue, immigration, has moved in fits and starts. Happily, he abandoned pursuing an outright and unconstitutional ban on Muslims, instead restricting travel for people from a handful of nations, most of them majority Muslim. He's tried separating families, sending troops to the border, declaring a national emergency, and for all that, illegal border crossings are, as the president calls it himself, at crisis levels. It goes on. And the people of Orlando are lined up in the rain and heat.
Friends Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
When you will see my financial statement at some point, I assume it's going to be released, you'll be very impressed with the job I've done. Much, much bigger, much better than anybody. They're after my financial statement, the Senate. They'd like to get my financial statement. At some point, I hope they get it.
You're going to turn it over?
No, at some point, I might. But at some point, I hope they get it because it's a fantastic financial statement. It's a fantastic financial statement. And let's do that over. He's coughing in the middle of my answer.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like that, you know?
Your chief of staff.
If you're going to cough, please leave the room.
Oh, my God.
And I'll come over here.
You just can't.
Just to change the shot. Okay.
Sorry. Okay, do you want to do that a little differently then?
Yeah, we just changed the angle. Okay. Yep.
Oh, my God.
So at some point, I look forward to, frankly, I'd like to have people see my financial statement because it's phenomenal. No, it's not up to me. It's up to lawyers. It's up to everything else. But they're asking for things that they should never be asking for, that they've never asked another president for. They want to go through every deal that I've ever done. What they're doing is a disgrace.
What other presidents have turned over?
They're trying to do step. They want to keep it going as long as possible to try and demean and hurt as much as possible so they can possibly win the presidential election.
He is twisted, man. Twisted. So that was part of the George Stephanopoulos ABC interview that the White House is really upset about. This might explain why Sarah Sanders is leaving. They're upset with Sarah because she allowed George Stephanopoulos to have 30 hours of access to the president. Now, it isn't that we want his financial statements. It's that the American people want to see his taxes. So does the House. So does the Senate. Why do they want to see his taxes? They want to see his taxes because we're pretty sure that he doesn't pay very much, that he pays nothing. Because all of this stuff that we learned with these, financial reporters who went through 10-year-older, taxes, they learned that his father, left him, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that he squandered it, and that the losses were what he was writing down for years and years, that he lost more money than any other businessman in America, and was taking those losses against his taxable income to the point where we don't think that he paid any taxes. But it's just Tony Schwartz who wrote The Art of the Deal. Donald Trump did not write The Art of the Deal, although he lies about it all the time. Tony Schwartz wrote The Art of the Deal, and he said the problem with Donald Trump is not just that he was rude to his chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, not just that he's trying to manage everything that, because TV's all he cares about and, the way he looks is all he cares about. He said it was the number of lies that he told in that short little clip.
The first is just do you want to do another take?
No, the first is the number of lies he tells in a remarkably short period of time. This is all he does now. He lies all the time. Virtually nothing he says is true.
Oh, my God.
And so
he's conjured a financial statement, a fictional thing that the Senate wants, that he wants to release, that the lawyers won't let him, that does not exist.
None of it means anything. And the right thing for, starve this sucker. Just stop listening, ignore everything he says.
You think that's right?
I really do. I think he is... he has gone so far over. I mean, there was a point at which only about 20 or 30% of what he said was untrue. It's now 80 or 90%.
Do you think it's gotten... one thing, I read the whole transcript today, so 40 pages, and one of the things that jumps out at you when you read the transcript is it's just constant repetition and a total failure to ever form a complex thought or even build an argument. You can say, look, here's why I didn't obstruct justice, 1, 2, 3. Can't do it.
Can't.
And I can't tell if this is someone who is choosing not to do it because he thinks repetition is more effective, or is incapable of doing it?
He is 100% incapable of doing it. There is not one chance in hell that this guy could put together a coherent set of sentences. And when he's under pressure, and he's feeling under enormous pressure right now, what he does is he doubles down on what he always does. So he repeats, he obfuscates, he lies. When you think about Mick Mulvaney standing in that office as the chief of staff to the president of the United States, and he says, get out of this room because you coughed. What you know is to know Trump is to hate Trump.
Oof.
To know Trump is to hate Trump, meaning everybody who knows him deep down hates him completely.
Wow. And that's true. You know that's true. And what really kills me is that the only, like I said, this rally tonight it looks like a Grateful Dead concert already, except for the fact that these people are not high on hallucinogens. They're high on an alternate reality. They live in a world of fake and false reporting. They live in a world that covers all the lies for this man who only cares about himself. I mean, I looked at the numbers in Florida because that's where this, re-election thing is going to kick off in Florida. And you just look at these people standing there, all the things he promised he would do. He said to Floridians, he said to everybody, he was going to lower drug prices. He was going to give us great health care. He was going to protect people with pre-existing conditions. He was going to create jobs. He would be the greatest jobs president in the history of the world. That the tax bill was going to benefit the middle class and the rich wouldn't make a dime off of it. Believe me. The rich aren't going to make any money. This is going to hurt Donald Trump. It's going to hurt him, cause him to pay more taxes. Here are the numbers, though. I mean, for starters, the Trump administration is currently in court trying to strike down the ACA. They're trying to sabotage the entire Affordable Care Act. You know how many Floridians would lose their health insurance if the entire Affordable Care Act was struck down? 7.8 million Floridians would lose any chance of coverage if pre-existing conditions and the protections for pre-existing conditions, meaning it doesn't matter if you have them or you don't, you have to get, they have to issue you a health care policy. 7.8 million people, including me and probably you, would now not have any health insurance that you could buy at any price. If he just flat out repealed it, Floridians would lose their health care. 1.6 million. The average premium increase for Florida families since he struck down the what do you call it? High risk corridor payments to the insurance companies. The average family now pays almost $3,000 more for their health care coverage. And they're going to cheer for him tonight. You know, this makes no sense to me. Then he said he'd be the greatest jobs president. Well, you know how many dollars we lost in overtime wages under this man? Because this administration has taken away the safeguards that ensure workers are paid overtime. This administration has taken away the exploitive financial advisors that used to prey on the seniors. And we said, no, you can't operate like that here. Well, now you can. And gas prices. Okay, $85 million was lost in overtime wages in Florida. $971 million was lost in retirement savings by charlatans out there. And we spent $1.8 billion more at the gas pump just here in Florida. Isn't it fitting that he's at the Amway Center, a center named for a pyramid scheme meant to benefit only the people at the top? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then the tax cuts. Oh, my God. $2 trillion went to corporations and the rich. And Floridians are paying more. Either they saw nothing or they paid more this year. And they're going to cheer for him because they're high on propaganda.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Who are your favorite authors?
Well, I have a number of favorite authors. I think Tom Wolfe is excellent.
Did you read Vanity of the Bonfires?
I did not.
It's a phenomenal book.
What book are you reading now?
Well, I'm
Bonfire of the Vanities.
I'm reading my own book again because I think it's so fantastic, Tom.
What's the best book you've read beside Art of the Deal?
I really like Tom Wolfe's last book.
Oh my God!
I think he's a great author. He's done a beautiful job.
Which book?
His current book. His current book. It's just out.
Bonfire of the Vanities.
Yes.
He just, there's something congenitally wrong with him, that he just feels this need to lie all the time because he's lazy. He doesn't do the work that people think he does. Oh, I love my book, Art of the Deal. Well, that's a lie because he didn't write it. Tony Schwartz did. And then he said, oh, I love Tom Wolfe's latest work. Well, you mean you just said you didn't read Bonfire of the Vanities? No, the latest one. Well, it's Bonfire of the Vanities. That's the one. It's just so sick. And tonight, they're going to stand there in Orlando and cheer this man. And do you know why? You know why? Because all of a sudden tonight, just like he started when he came down the escalator with they're not sending their very best, have a look-see at the crowd tonight and tell me if Orlando is sending its very best. I mean, come on. Gary in Fort Lauderdale called Scott and gave him a joke. It's good. It says, why does Trump love his rallies so much? Because he's the smartest guy in the room. Thanks, Gary. But I mean, honest to God, that's the reason. And they're just sycophants. And they're going to sit there and cheer for him because he's going to announce tonight mass deportations. He's going to announce tonight that he's going to launch a massive deportation force that is going to go and get families. And he's going to deport. This is what he tweeted this morning. So you know that this is for the crowd of racists, who he got in the first place by saying, Mexico, when they send their people, they're not sending their very best. Orlando sends their very worst. I mean, it's just going to be, I looked at some of the costumes that people feel the need to wear to go support this loser, this unbelievable liar, this moral decrepit, demagogue, this man who needs crowd therapy to make himself feel like a person. I mean, it's just so sick. But he's going to announce tonight he's going to feed the meat to the base. He's going to tell them that he's going to deploy mass deportation forces and he's going to deport millions of people. Now, I have no idea if that's going to happen or not. Because he said it, I'll say no. But just in time for the 4th of July... He's announcing a coming series of mass arrests of immigrants. And, he's hijacking the 4th of July. You know that, right? He's going to make the 4th of July all about him. He's literally going to go and give a speech where no president has ever done that. No president on the 4th of July goes and gives a speech. It's about independence. It's not about, a dutiful loyalty to a man, right? So he's going to take over our 4th of July celebration at the Capitol. Instead of celebrating our independence, it's going to be like this unbelievably sad demonstration of the subjugation of our nation. So, he's going to give a politicized, polarizing, poisonous speech. That is a Donald Trump speech. On the 4th of July, from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. He's going to turn it into a nightmare. He is going to defile Martin Luther King, the Lincoln Memorial, and the 4th of July in one fell swoop. Isn't that fun, everybody? Why doesn't he just whip it out and take a pee on the Washington Monument? Why doesn't he just defile everything? I mean, that's what he's like a stupid poodle. He's got to mark everything. So I don't even know, what do you call this? Like PBS, they call it a Capitol 4th. We should call it a damn shame. And he's going to announce these mass arrests, perhaps. It was timed for tonight's rally, so he can tell these, crazy people, already outside, the mass arrests have begun. And then all the followers can run out and they could torch the closest Hispanic neighborhood. Won't that be fun? And they won't know the difference because, when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, a lot of people couldn't stay on the island. Now, they are American citizens, not that Trump realizes this, nor do his followers. And where did they go? They went to Orlando. Orlando has become a cradle of civilization for Puerto Ricans who couldn't stay on the island. And so these lunatics, they'll go out and they'll start, torching Puerto Rican neighborhoods, say, get out of America. They are Americans. Ooh, maybe he'll put all the people that he arrests in cages, and he'll roll them down the mall in Washington on the 4th of July like some sort of a Roman triumph or a North Korean, show of force. He is twisted. And I want to show you something. I mean, I want to show you what the alternative universe looks like. I got into a Twitter fight with this crazy dude. I don't even know why he's a dude. I don't even know why he's on TV. But I got into this big Twitter war. I don't even remember what it was about. But I do remember showing him articles. Because, I don't call people names on Twitter. I'll just engage them and I'll show them. And of course they'll say that's not New York Times. Oh, failing New York Times, Washington Post, fake news. Anything Trump doesn't like is now fake, and everything he wishes would be is now real, like the polls, right? The polling that he said, there are no polls like that. They don't exist, these polls that you're citing. He told George Stephanopoulos, when George Stephanopoulos and others had said to him, your own internal polling shows you're losing to Joe Biden by 10 points. Florida, he's losing. He's losing freaking Florida. I don't know how that happens, but he's losing Florida. He's losing Ohio. He's losing Texas, for God's sake, by great big margins to every other person who would run against him. I mean, just every other person that would run against him. I mean, if I would run again, I should run for president now because I could actually win. I would have to skip the primaries. Because there's no way I could beat an Elizabeth Warren. There's no way I could beat a Bernie Sanders. There's no way I could beat a Buttigieg. There's no way I could even beat a Kamala or a Beto. But if I could skip the primary and just get my name on the ballot in all 50 states, oh my God, I could be president. Because it's anybody but Trump.
Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
All right, so I want to show you something, okay? I want to show you this alternative universe that is Fox News. On Fox and Friends, which is a very bizarre cartoony sort of alternate reality morning show that the president just swears by. He just can't wake up without it. Has to tweet to it, has to love it, has to praise it, has to watch it, has to hear what he once said on the TV. I mean, it's like a weird Twilight Zone episode, really, when you think about it, right? So there's this guy, Dan Bongino, and like I said, I got into a Twitter war with this guy because no matter what you present them that's real, you can show them statistics, you can show them the government's own reports, you can show them, everything, and they'll still say it's not true because they live in a reality that they make up as they go along. The rest of the world does not live on 6th Avenue at the Fox News, main bureau. So anyway, he decided, this is really, I mean, it's just so bizarre. He decided that he would invite, he's sub-hosting, he's filling him. And he decided that he would have this very reputable guy, a strategist, a Democratic strategist who happens to be a professor named Jason Nichols. And he would debate Jason Nichols. And the conversation kicked off with Donald Trump's comments that we all heard, where he would accept foreign dirt from China, from Iran. It doesn't matter. He would look at it and maybe he would call the FBI. And the White House was so freaked out that he told this to George that they had him try and walk it back on Fox and Friends in a rambling 50-minute phone call. Remember that? Okay. So Dan Bongino decides that he's going to have Jason Nichols on the TV to debate him, and the amount of lying that went on, the amount of BS is just, it's insane. Now, here's the thing: if you don't know the entire, if you don't know who the characters in the Russian investigation are, if you don't know the real situation, if you haven't read the Mueller report, if you don't know who Natalia Veselnitskaya is, and that Natalia Veselnitskaya, and I kept telling you at the beginning, Prevezon. Remember that? We gave you a whole course on Prevezon. She was the lawyer for a Russian tax scam that was perpetrated by Vladimir Putin and a company called Prevezon against a guy named Bill Browder. Prevezon, the Russian company that perpetrated this $230 million fraud against the Russian people, was sued here in the United States. Bill Browder, actually brought the case. And that's why we have the Magnitsky Act. Bill Browder hired an attorney named Sergei Magnitsky, who was killed by the Russians when Sergei found this massive $230 million tax fraud. And make a long story short, Natalia Veselnitskaya was working for the Russian government, and she was the lawyer for Prevezon against Bill Browder. Prevezon hired Fusion GPS, this DC company, to dig up dirt on Bill Browder for their court case. Now, just hold that in your head while you listen to this mischaracterization of everything having to do with the Russian investigation.
But where was that outrage over Hillary Clinton's role in the creation of the Steele dossier? Joining me now is Jason Nichols, Democratic strategist and lecturer of African American Studies at the University of Maryland. Jason, thanks for joining us. So, Jason, my first question here is, if you have a problem with foreign interference in elections, do you have a problem with Hillary Clinton paying a foreigner to obtain information from two Putin-connected Russian sources? Of course, a fact not open for dispute, but does that bother you as well? Not open for dispute.
Well, again, I think that you are misinterpreting that completely. Dan, good morning. But I think you're absolutely incorrect about that. Number one, the Clinton campaign played a company called Fusion GPS, which is a U.S. company that happened to employ a British national by the name of Steele. So they did not hire Steele. Steele is not a representative
They didn't. So
of a
Hillary
foreign
Clinton
government.
did not hire Steele.
No.
I'm trying to get, because that's entirely inaccurate.
That's entirely inaccurate. Okay, let's go over this one more time. Paul Singer, who runs the Washington Free Beacon, he hired Fusion GPS. He did, to do dirt on Donald Trump. And once Donald Trump became the nominee, he stopped paying Fusion GPS. Coe Perkins, a law firm, decided to pay Glenn Simpson at Fusion GPS, which is a Washington, D.C. company that was founded by former Wall Street Journal journalist Glenn Simpson, who testified to Robert Mueller and whose testimony was released to the public so we could all read it. Glenn Simpson had the account because the account was opened by the Republicans to get dirt on Trump. And then Coe Perkins, a law firm that was working with the Clinton campaign, hired Fusion GPS. Glenn Simpson tasked a private citizen in the UK, Chris Steele, who was a former, didn't work for MI6 anymore, a former MI6 agent who was now in private life and offering his services to opposition research company Fusion GPS. He said, that's inaccurate. No, that's true.
Campaign.
So as long as you launder the money, it's okay? So as long as you launder the money to a law firm, it's okay?
So the law firm was not laundering money. The law firm was engaged with a Washington, D.C. based company called Fusion GPS. Okay?
Just trying to get your principles down on this.
They went to a U.S. company, so it was not going
so
to
if you pay a U.S. company to pay foreigners for Russian information, it's okay?
It's not going to a hotel and having a meeting with the Russian lawyer, or it's not, picking up the phone and it's Vladimir Putin.
Who went to a hotel with a meeting with a Russian lawyer?
What?
Of course, you know that Donald Trump Jr. actually did that, but you
mean the Russian lawyer that works for the same company, Fusion GPS, paid for by Hillary?
Natalia Veselnitskaya never worked for Fusion GPS. Natalia Veselnitskaya was the attorney for Prevezon, a Russian company that ripped off the Russian treasury, and Bill Browder found the fraud, and the case was brought in New York by Preet Bharara, who was fired. And after Preet Bharara was fired, In 2017, that case was settled for a fraction, for like $5.8 million instead of the $230 million that was stolen. What do you mean, the same lawyer that worked for Fusion? You see this is crazy. And people sit there and they listen to this and they think, oh, she worked for Fusion too? No, she didn't. She worked for the Russian government. In fact, she's been indicted, for God's sake. She has been indicted by Robert Mueller.
We're talking about Fusion GPS. We're talking about Fusion GPS, a U.S. company that employed the services of Steele. Right. And the Steele dossier is not even where the Russia investigation came from. As a matter of fact,
okay, Jason, what you're saying is entirely wrong and inaccurate. And I'm sorry, I have to stop you because Steele has already admitted to the State Department in a memo you can look at yourself that was taken down in a note that his sources were two Trebnikov and Surkov, two Putin-connected Russians. So I'm just trying to get your principle. No, hold on. I let you answer, but I just want to get your principles down. You're suggesting as long as you pay a U.S. company first to pay foreigners to get information from Putin-connected Russians, that's okay with you, right?
What I'm saying is they hired a U.S. company, and the U.S. company happened to hire a foreign national.
Okay, so as long as we pay U.S. companies to work with foreigners.
Now, Steele was not an employee of the Russian government. He was not an employee of the British government. He was an employee of a U.S. company. Right. And that's who the Clinton campaign hired. They did not hire Steele directly.
Jason, I'm just trying to nail you down. A simple yes or no will suffice. I'm just asking you.
Let's listen to what Donald Trump was saying. That's different. Hold on. Give me one moment here. Mm-hmm. What Donald Trump is talking about is completely different than that. He's saying if the Russians are on the phone and they have information, I'll take the call. And then I'll make a judgment call and see whether I call the FBI. Maybe. That is something that Christopher Wray has said is wrong, that the FEC has said is wrong.
So Jason, I let you answer. That's great. You still didn't give me an answer on the other one, which I find odd. But so you're suggesting now, as long as the Russians call Donald Trump, even if the information is shady or inaccurate, like it was for Hillary's information, that they should investigate Hillary? So let me just give you a quick hypothetical. Again, a yes or no is fine here. If Donald Trump, hold on, Jason, hold on. Let me ask you, because you're not giving hard answers. As long as Donald Trump gets a call from Russians tomorrow saying Hillary robbed the bank, they should open an FBI investigation and not vet the information. Yes or no? The
FBI investigation existed
yes or no
7 weeks
fine,
before the Steele dossier. There's no reason, Dan, there's no reason to go into hypotheticals.
You're not going to answer
we can talk actual facts.
Wow. What Donald Trump is talking about is accepting Russian intelligence officers hacked and stolen material on a campaign challenger. And the people that watch this stuff believe this.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Why haven't you nominated the DHS and Defense Secretary?
Well, I have, Defense Secretary. I have. It's done. I put it out. Yeah, it's done from the standpoint of the nomination. Wait. Pat Shanahan was nominated 2 weeks ago. Yeah, no, I put it out. I put it out officially. No, now he has to go through the process. He's now going through. That will make a determination. I think Kevin is doing a very good job right now, but we'll make a determination and not do this. We have acting. We'll make a determination, but I think Kevin's doing a very good job.
All right, so he seemed confused last week when he was asked, when it was asked, okay, because he's not even human anymore. There's something so inhuman about him. I mean, he doesn't have compassion or empathy or any of the traits that we associate with humans. He's sort of a big orange stupid poodle that needs to mark all his territories, and so he was asked last week, what happened to Pat Shanahan's confirmation hearing? And he said, oh, no, it's done. It's done. We put it out, and now he has to go through the process, except that he never filed the paperwork necessary to begin confirmation hearings on the Secretary of Defense the acting Secretary of Defense, Boeing executive Pat Shanahan. He never filed the paperwork. All of a sudden today, Pat Shanahan has taken himself out of the running. He doesn't want to go for confirmation hearings. He doesn't want to see the process through. And everybody this morning was like, but Trump gave assurances that he was, he was the next Secretary of Defense. Shanahan said last week he's still in contact with the White House. The process should be completed shortly. I'm in contact with the White House. We're done with our paperwork. We expect to have the process completed here shortly, he said. But none of that was true. And the reason why is really pretty tragic. It's really a sad, horrendous story. Turns out that there was a whole bunch of domestic violence in Patrick Shanahan's family. A lot of domestic violence, like serious going to the hospital, needs surgery domestic violence, like domestic violence not just from one parent toward the other, but the children toward a parent that just kept escalating over the years. Now, I don't know if, I don't know how you feel about this, but the story is this. Pat Shanahan was married to a woman for 24 years. This woman, according to Pat Shanahan, after 24 years, became unhinged. She became somebody that he said was out of control. And he said that his wife started to hit him and beat him up. They got divorced. And in the divorce case, there was another incident. And this was really bad. All right. In 2011, Pat Shanahan's son was only 17 years old. After the divorce, Pat Shanahan's wife got custody of the children. And then the 17-year-old son, William, after his dad left, and this happens in a lot of families, the kids just rebel. The kids just feel untethered. The father, the disciplinarian or whatever is gone, and the kids start acting up. Well, this 17-year-old boy, William, started to date a 36-year-old woman. And his mother went ballistic. She was furious, and she was telling this kid at 17, you cannot be dating a 36-year-old woman. Apparently, this went on, this escalation of this argument about the 17-year-old dating a 36-year-old woman went on and on and on until one night at 1:30 in the morning, William Shanahan, the son, Pat's son, literally got into it with his mother almost 2 o'clock in the morning, picked up a baseball bat and beat his mother senseless. I mean, brutally. Fractured her skull, internal injuries. She was literally busted. I mean, he broke her. He beat her so bad. And he's got a little brother. William's got a little brother, and told his little brother. He ripped the phone out of the wall. He threw away the cell phones. He said, do not call 911. Threw his little brother a bottle of rubbing alcohol and said, you clean her up, and left her laying in a pool of blood. Left her laying there with a fractured skull and internal injuries and a broken elbow and a whole bunch of, really bad damage because he really, really beat her. And the little brother was freaked out. And so he ran next door and he called 911. The ambulance came and took her to the hospital. She needed surgery, the whole 9 yards. Pat Shanahan, the acting defense secretary currently, wrote a letter to the brother of his wife and explained to the brother of his wife that William, his son, had acted in self-defense and said, He was defending himself against his mother. But there is no evidence that his mother hit him. He felt that his mother was haranguing him. He felt that his mother wouldn't let go of the fact that he was dating a 36-year-old woman. And Pat Shanahan decided that he would cover for his son and allowed for this myth of self-defense to actually play itself out. He's now apologizing for that. He said, quite frankly, it's difficult to relive that moment. It's difficult for me to read the letter that he wrote to his wife's brother saying William acted in self-defense. He said, I was wrong to write those sentences. I have never believed Will's attack on his mother was an act of self-defense or justified. I don't believe violence is appropriate ever, and certainly never any justification for attacking someone with a baseball bat. Now, his wife refused to answer any questions about this, but Pat Shanahan went even further. He tried to manage his son's case because the police did come and they did arrest him and they did put him on trial. And Pat Shanahan defended his son. And even, the police were trying to go through the son's cell phone to see if the son, if any of this was true, if the son was having an affair with a 36-year-old woman. And the story is that Pat Shanahan, the nominee for Secretary of Defense, took his son's cell phone and brought it back to Seattle. This all happened, of course, in Florida, in Sarasota. So he took his son's cell phone so that the police couldn't go through his son's cell phone. And the police said that Pat Shanahan was very uncooperative. His son eventually was sentenced to, I think, 8 months in a sheriff's ranch type situation. But his father got him his sentence reduced by saying he had a brilliant baseball career ahead of him.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, so Trump is on his way to Orlando, and of course he's never met a camera that he didn't love, so he stopped and talked to reporters who asked him about the withdrawal of the Boeing executive Pat Shanahan for covering up a really violent attack on his ex-wife by his son, who was facing 15 years in prison for beating his mother, for attacking his mother with a baseball bat to the point of organ damage and fractured skull, broken elbow, the whole thing. So the prosecutors they charged William as an adult with a couple of felonies, and then they allowed him to turn himself in. And Pat Shanahan covered for his son and said, no, he's got this brilliant baseball career. He went to a elite prep school. Blah, 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 this and that. And so they charged him with one felony, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. He pleaded to a third-degree felony in 2012. And a state prosecutor in Florida agreed to withhold the adjudication and post-sentencing that maneuver. You can't do that outside of Florida. Anyway, he got 18 months at a Florida sheriff's youth ranch and 4 years probation, but those penalties were later reduced. And then the son, who gets out of custody, enrolls at the University of Washington in Washington State. His father was on the Board of Regents. And Patrick Shanahan's father, his grandfather, was the police chief for the University of Washington for 20 years. And that's where this kid was accepted to college. So now he graduated last June. He's got a degree in political science. And the wife, who, the mother that he beat, she finally lost custody of the youngest child in 2014. because a judge wrote that she had engaged in abusive use of conflict that is seriously detrimental to a child. And now none of her children will have anything to do with her. So this is just one of those, horrible family stories. I mean, it's just a horrible story. And, there's no explanation on earth that would make me okay with a 17-year-old boy beating his mother with a baseball bat to the point of, when the judge looked at the photos of the crime scene, he said it was horrific. But that Trump's vetting never produced anything in the background check on Patrick Shanahan is very, very bizarre. Think about Rob Porter. Rob Porter, he had 2 wives. Both of them turned up with black eyes. And, the vetting process did not work there. Think about, the vetting process did work with regard to Ivanka, and it did work with regard to Jared, because law enforcement and the intelligence communities both told the Trump administration not to issue security clearances to them. And he did anyway. This guy, Klein, right? Carl Klein, overruled the law enforcement and the intelligence community's recommendations against providing them with security clearances. But it's just so strange that none of the, and just last week, that's why I played you the clip to begin with, Trump said, no, it's all done. Pat Shanahan's going through. He's going through. And they never filed the paperwork for the confirmation hearing for Pat Shanahan, the Boeing executive, to become our permanent Secretary of Defense in a time when we're, threatening to go to war in the Middle East again. So Trump was asked on his way to Orlando just now, what about that?
Ask him to withdraw, but he walked in this morning. He said it's going to be a rough time for him because of obviously what happened. But I did not ask him to withdraw. He presented me with a letter this morning. That was his decision. I had heard about it yesterday for the first time. I didn't know about it. I had heard about it yesterday, and it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. No, we have a very good vetting process, and you take a look at our cabinet and our secretaries, very good. But we have a great vetting process. But this is something that came up a little bit over the last short period of time. And as you know, Pat was acting. And so acting gives you much greater flexibility, a lot easier to do things. So that's the way it is. Too bad.
This is what he does, okay? He lies, and then he lies some more, and then he admits the truth in a weird way, right? So he actually is admitting to you that acting is easier to maneuver because there's no Senate confirmation hearing. You don't have to be sworn. You don't have to be heard under oath. You don't have to testify to a Senate that should have the vetting, the results of a vet. Right? And any result of any vet of this man would show that his son went to jail with facing 15 years on 2 felony counts of beating the crap out of his mother with a baseball bat, and that Pat Shanahan tried to cover it up. And that the police said that Pat Shanahan was not cooperative in any of this investigatory, in any of their investigations, and that he actually hindered the investigation. A simple FBI visit to Pat Shanahan's neighbors or to his son or to his daughter. Anybody who has any sort of security clearance, and most of the security clearances that are given out are like need to know, meaning, you have a security clearance to look at this, maybe it's, maybe you work on a stealth airplane or something like that, right? And so some of the architecture, some of the materials used in this stealth aircraft is classified material, right? So you'll apply for it, you'll be vetted, and you'll get a security clearance based on your need to know about that airplane. Nothing more. It just, security clearance isn't entitled you to now know, where the troops are going to be sent, over in Iran or in the, in the Strait of Hormuz. It's only a need to know about that airplane. But, anybody that's ever gone through anything remotely like that little tiny, tiny bit of vetting for a security clearance knows that they talk to your neighbors. They talk to your children. If you have children, they talk to your wife. They're going to talk to, people that know you, people that, interact with you, people that you've worked with. There is no way that the administration did not know about this history. And so he was allowing this man to walk around with this big, deep, dark secret, which obviously Pat Shanahan, he's not a perpetrator of violence. His son is a perpetrator of violence, and maybe his wife is somebody who's got some issues, but that he could be blackmailed because he's got a secret that he wasn't forthcoming. Do you know what it's just, this makes no sense. Like, is there anybody around Donald Trump who has clean hands? Is this why everybody is acting and nobody is confirmed? Because everyone around him is blackmailable. Everyone around him is shady. Look at Michael Flynn, for God's sake. It's dangerous. And I don't even blame Pat Shanahan. Because according to this, yes, he obstructed.
All in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
April.
Mr. President, will you apologize to Central Park 5? They've been exonerated. There have been videos and movies shown about the case, and you came out with a full-page ad saying that they should die. They should have the death penalty.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
That was a little odd. That was April Ryan, I think, asking Donald Trump on his way to Orlando just now whether or not he will apologize to the Central Park Five. And he said they pled guilty. They did not plead guilty. Okay, they refused to plead guilty. They refused all plea deals. This man is just congenital. And they're going to cheer for him tonight, and he's going to stand on the stage and announce mass deportations. And I'm telling you, these red meat eating people are going to go crazy. They're going to just love on him, and they're going to cheer for, sort of a purging of 11 million people in this country. It's going to be sick and twisted. If you thought that the elevator, the escalator thing with the white dress, and they're not saying, if you thought, I don't know, I tonight is going to be a little bit sick. I think a little bit crazy. Anyway, there's another story about another one of Donald Trump's closest friends, and that would be a story about Alex Jones. Alex Jones, who has been his platform, he's been deplatformed from just about every private company that could deplatform him. And now there's a new set of facts. He's being sued by the families of 8 of the victims in the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012, right? The Newtown Sandy Hook. Now, America's a sick country, and you don't even need to look further than 2012 if you want to understand the sickness that permeates our society, okay? Because when you have all these babies being killed at a school and you don't pass some sort of gun safety legislation, you don't pass background checks, you don't whatever, then something's really, really wrong with your society. That's number one. Number two, when you have a guy who's got literally millions of people that watched him, that listened to him, sell this false flag theory that those children didn't even exist and that they were actors, child actors. And you've got millions and millions of people in this country hanging on every word of a guy who howls and cries and screams and yells and sells some sort of iodine-filled supplements to his sycophantic followers. And Roger Stone is like a regular on his show. And Roger Stone understands that these people can be sold anything and that Donald Trump should go on his show. And Donald Trump ought to say, even after this guy is a birther, and even after this guy says Columbine was a false flag and it was a setup, and even when this guy says that, the government is, making him psychotic, that they're poisoning him, and that, Sandy Hook didn't really happen, and all these conspiracy theories, and the president, he's already been elected. President of the United States decides, I think it's a good idea that I go on Alex Jones' show and tell him he's got a great reputation. Then you know something so bad is going on in this country. So bad.
I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing.
In December 2015, Mr. Trump appeared on Jones's radio program, offering praise and promises.
I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope. And I think we'll be speaking a lot.
Separately, both men had supported the false statement that Barack Obama was not a natural-born citizen.
Donald Trump is surging.
And they've had more in common since.
I agree with Trump on that. He agrees with me. Because they've got articles. He's following Alex on coal. He's following Alex on guns. He's following Alex on borders.
The 2016 campaign was good for InfoWars. Its YouTube monthly views reached 83 million in November 2016, more than 5 times higher than the previous November. And when Mr. Trump won, Alex Jones found himself with access to the seat of power. InfoWars got a temporary White House press pass for the first time, and Jones says Mr. Trump called him after the election to thank him for his help.
You have said that it's surreal to say something on InfoWars and then hear it come out of the President of the United States' mouth a couple days later.
I mean, that has happened, but...
Do you think he's watching?
I mean, I know Trump watches and sees the clips and things.
We did find indications of that. On July 22nd, 2015, InfoWars put up this video, claiming it showed drug trafficking along the U.S.-Mexico border, although we don't know what it actually shows.
We actually witnessed a drug smuggling operation from Mexico into the U.S.
3 days later, Mr. Trump gave this speech in Iowa.
Big story. It's all over the place now.
Oh, my God.
Guys swimming across, and big bags of stuff. It's drugs. Swimming across the river.
This was InfoWars previewing the first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
I think she's going to show up and on drugs, though. She's going to be whacked up.
And Mr. Trump's take not long after.
We should take a drug test prior, because I don't know what's going on with her.
Donald Trump ally and frequent InfoWars guest Roger Stone underscored the connection between Jones and the Trump campaign in a tweet last spring. It read, MSM elites don't see that Alex Jones and InfoWars reach millions of Donald Trump supporters and helped make the Trump revolution.
Donald Trump calls me. Secretary says, Donald Trump would like to talk to you. Mr. Jones, you'd like to talk to him? Yes, boom.
While Jones has boasted of his contact with the president on his radio show, he downplayed it in his interview with us, claiming the mainstream media, or MSM, has exaggerated their connection.
I think my influence on Trump is way, way lower than what MSM has said.
Well, what kind of access do you have?
He's just called sometimes and talked about politics or thanked me, stuff like that. That's it.
Would you describe yourself as friends?
No.
Friendly?
Sure.
Great. Turns out that in the Sandy Hook matter, Alex Jones sent over documents that were requested and ordered by the court to be turned over to the Sandy Hook families, and it included a bunch of kiddie porn. A bunch of kiddie porn. And, Alex Jones is always... pedophiles, I hate that, crying, oh, the children. Hillary smells like sulfur, right? You ever see there's flies around her? She smells like So the lawyers for the victims' families decided to push this into the court, and Alex Jones then threatened the lawyers.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, so here's what happened. So there are 8 victims' families from the Sandy Hook massacre who are suing Alex Jones because he defamed them. He actually caused them to be harassed. He caused his sycophantic listeners, viewers, whatever you want to call them, to attack these families, call them liars, and make their lives an eternal hell. Okay, and so they sued Alex Jones for defaming them, for lying about their children and, turning his listeners against these people. And, when Alex Jones did the Pizzagate crap, I mean, a guy got in a car from North Carolina and drove to Comet Pizza in Washington and shot the place up. That's how crazy and off the hook this is, okay? And so when Alex Jones was ordered to turn over documents to the families in the discovery process that precedes every lawsuit, apparently his attorneys didn't do due diligence. They didn't review the materials before they produced them to the families, and they sent over kiddie porn. And the family's lawyers saw it, and they went to the court and they told the court that, there was kiddie porn in it, and that they had contacted the FBI, and that they had advised Alex Jones' attorney, Norm Pattis, about this and arranged a telephone call with the U.S. Attorney's Office. And Alex Jones decided to go on his whatever platform he's allowed on now. I don't even know how he's doing this. And he decided to threaten the attorneys for the families now of the 8 Sandy Hook children.
You think when you call up, oh, we'll protect you. We found the child porn. I like women with big, giant and big I don't like kids like you rapists, F-heads. In fact, delete this. You are going to get it, you f***ing child molesters. I'll get you in the end, you f***s. Now, we're done right there. I know I should delete it on radio. Probably still went out. I don't care. You're trying to set me up with child porn. I'm going to get you $1 million. $1 million, you little gang member. $1 million to put your head on a pike. $1 million. I'm going to get your... Do you understand me now? You're not going to ever defeat Texas, you Saxon. So you get ready for that. Now, I don't usually use French, but I'm pissed right now.
Well, the judge that's hearing the case today sanctioned Alex Jones for threatening the attorneys. He watched this tape, and his name is Superior Court Judge, it's a woman, Superior Court Judge Barbara Bellis. She came after the attorneys representing several of the families in their lawsuit filed a motion yesterday asking the judge to review this footage that I just showed you, threatening one of the attorneys for the families of the Sandy Hook children. And the judge said his behavior is indefensible, unconscionable, and possibly criminal behavior. So she sanctioned the defense by saying that they had moved to dismiss the case, and she said, no, we're not going to pursue your motion to dismiss. We are going forward with the lawsuit. And she awarded attorneys' fees and filing fees paid by Alex Jones to the Sandy Hook family's lawyers because he threatened them too. Now, you know what Alex Jones says, about the Sandy Hook thing? He has said before, after years and years of saying, because this happened in 2012, as you know, 7 years of him hammering on this child actor and false flags, and Columbine is a false flag, and 9/11 is an inside job, and just about anything and everything, because the government is out to get you. The government's out to take your guns, or the government has a plan for you, that you're going to live on a prison planet, and only the elite are going to have the money, and they are going to release some sort of disease and kill us all off. And then the remaining people will live on a prison planet that's lorded over by the elites. This is Alex Jones, this is his hallucination about what's going on. And so when he was first sworn in a deposition setting about why he says these lies and why he says that the Sandy Hook kids weren't real and they were actors and all, he swore under oath that it was a form of psychosis that the government has caused him. The government is doing this to him. They're making him psychotic. See? And so he's not responsible. He's sort of, being controlled by the government. And what he says is stuff that the government induced a psychotic frame of mind in him. And it's not his fault that he says these things. He said, I've watched a lot of soap operas. I've seen a lot of actors before. And I know I'm watching a movie when I'm watching something real. And he said that the Sandy Hook thing was a play. It was a movie. It wasn't real. And when he was in a sworn deposition earlier this year, he said it's a form of psychosis the government induced. This is a man, and the reason why this is at all important is because of those numbers. 85 million YouTube views of this psychotic, ranting, conspiracy theorist lunatic featuring Jerome Corsi, Roger Stone, and the President of the United States, who has a tendency to repeat every sick, twisted thing that Alex Jones tries to sell. What is going on in this country is a massive propaganda machine designed to disorient you so that you will not protest a corrupt and irresponsible, morally decayed. I mean, Trump is an oozing, pussy, gravy sore of a human being. He is a necrotic, disgusting, dead sore. And he is just the result of all of this. He didn't do this. Donald Trump didn't do this to us. This is being done to us through mass communication of false and fake and upside down and black is white and white is black and in is out and out is in, ridiculous broadcasts by people who literally are emotionally and mentally incompetent, having access to the awesome power of platforms and internet and radio. Donald Trump is just the natural conclusion to the unitary executive theory, to Mitch McConnell, to the obstruction of the Constitution. Donald Trump is just, they say he's a symptom. He's not a symptom. He is the culmination of all evil, anti-constitutional mingling and mixing of entertainment and news without any rules of the road about who and what can brand themselves as legitimate carriers of information. He is just the result. And tonight you will see him be absolutely swooned over by, again, he's got a 30% following in this country. But those 30% are 1,000% in with this guy. 1,000%. And if he could figure out a way for them to vote 1,000 times each, he will not leave. He will stay forever. It's just, this is all the result of what it means to not have standards and practices, of what it means to not police news organizations that brand themselves news, that have backdrops that look like, very new, that are absolute shills for every evil, ugly, disgusting conspiracist in the world to practice their evil tricks. Roger Stone is a dirty trickster. Jerome Corsi is a liar. Roger Stone will go on trial. Obviously, this hacked and stolen material that was stolen by an adversary's military intelligence unit can be passed off on Fox News as being a legitimate thing to take and use against your opponent. Sick.